If you're watching this video, you probably fall into one of two camps. You want to know either if you need to upgrade from an aging iPhone, or if you can save yourself a few $100 by not buying an iPhone 13 Pro for your next phone. The answer to both of those questions is yes. I'm Chris DeGraw with Digital Trends, and this is the iPhone 13. I should put a little asterisk in there, by the way. Sorry, kind of a bait, I know. If you're watching this because you're a tech enthusiast and you just love consuming as much of this type of content as possible, no judgment from me of all people, or lastly, if you're just a big fan of me, which may only apply to my mom, then the answer might be no, that you should not buy the iPhone 13. But speaking of fans, if you wouldn't mind helping us reach more, give us a like on this video, subscribe and tap bell if you're feeling philanthropic. The point is, in all other scenarios, the iPhone 13 presents an extremely compelling value proposition. More so now than ever before, I think. And that comes down to a few things. It's worth keeping in mind off the top that, by all accounts, we most likely won't see a mini iPhone again next year, possibly ever again. So if tiny iPhones are your thing, now is the time to buy. Maybe if enough people get one, they'll change their mind and keep it around. I mean, I doubt it, but hey, stranger things have happened. So there are improvements to battery life across the entire iPhone lineup, and Apple's promise of 1 or 2 more hours has been pretty believable with my testing. Now, I've only been using the phone for a few solid days, so I'll stop short of saying anything definitive, but during a weekend out of town with some friends, I ended each day with around 25 to 30%. Months more of testing would be needed to confirm whether that's just new battery bias or a persistent improvement, but we'll have to wait and see with the 6-month retrospectives for that. Of course, we still have Lightning here, and while I'd like to have seen USB-C, maybe fast charging even, if you're like me and have grown accustomed to charging in the late afternoon in anticipation of a dangerously low battery in the evening, you might find that that's no longer necessary now. But also, the phone is powered by Apple's new A15 Bionic chip, which is capable of better battery management, among other things. For example, that chip is also powering a better camera than before. I'm talking quite a bit better. The Pro models do take even more light than this phone with a larger aperture and sensor size, and you'll miss out on that newly added macro photography feature. But for most typical uses, these lenses are absolutely nothing to scoff at. The only lenses on any phone better than the ones on the iPhone 13 and 13 mini are those on the 13 Pro and Pro Max. So you can feel safe having saved some dough, knowing that you can still outshoot your Samsung friends for the moment, though they'll never admit it. I am hoping to see that challenge though with a certain Pixel 6 coming in a few weeks. You might want to keep your eye on the channel for when that drops. I go into some more nitty-gritty detail on the camera features specifically in my iPhone 13 Pro review, so if you haven't already, watch that right after this one if you're interested in that. That includes my thoughts on cinematic mode and photographic styles, which are both available in the iPhone 13 and 13 mini as well. But here's the bottom line when it comes to these cameras. Curiously, I think if you're a professional photographer, you should buy this phone and not an iPhone 13 Pro. If you're gonna carry around a nicer camera when you know you're gonna need one, then you may not need any better of a camera than this one for your everyday life. If, however, you fancy yourself a bit of a hobby photographer like myself, and you either flat out don't use or know that you likely won't be carrying around with you a full camera with swappable lenses and all the fixins regardless of the occasion, then you, like me, might benefit from the extra oomph afforded by the cameras in the Pro models. Aside from the camera though, what else are you missing out on by avoiding the Pro series this year? Well, that fancy new variable refresh rate is probably the biggest thing. There are some people for whom ProMotion will be immediately impossible to live without, and I'm not gonna lie, I like it a lot too. It honestly gives the illusion of a faster phone just by virtue of being smoother and more quickly reactive to your input. But is it worth an extra 300 bones? If you think it might be, I would encourage you, if you can, to go into a store safely and see it for yourself. Some other things to consider: this phone feels somewhat cheaper, and that's because it is. It's not exactly a groundbreaking statement, but I thought it worth a mention. There's no stainless steel frame here. It's quite a bit lighter than the 13 Pro, but here's a hot take. I kind of like that about it. Granted, I've been lugging around a 12 Pro Max for an entire year, so I'm definitely influenced by that, but for me at least, this has been a pleasant change of pace. The colors are a little more understated this time around, with our unit being the Starlight variant. And I have a bit of a nitpick while we're on the subject. Why does the Starlight iPhone 13 have an objectively white back, while the brand new iPad mini 6 in Starlight has an illustrious kind of gold-silver back? If you ask me, I think it's because Apple wants to make sure if someone sees a gold iPhone that they know beyond the shadow of a doubt that it's a Pro model and not a plain old scrub 13. And don't go trying to tell me that this is pedantic. First of all, I know it is. Part of my job is to be pedantic. But second of all, when marketing gets in the way of logic, I just can't help but notice and be bothered by it. And I know I'm not the only one. Anyway, as many people before me have said, there's not a ton more to say about the iPhone 13. So how old does your phone have to be exactly in order to necessitate the jump to the iPhone 13? Here's my take. If you're still on the iPhone XR or older, you should absolutely get this phone. It's a no-brainer. If you have an 11 or a 12, that decision is a little harder. But you might want to stick it out another year because whether the leaks come true or not, I expect we'll see some bigger changes in the 14s. And that's gonna do it for my iPhone 13 review. What do you think? Can you let go of the Pro, or do you need that better camera system? Let us know in the comments. As always, give us an LSB if you would. That's like, subscribe, bell. Watch the full iPhone 13 Pro video if you enjoyed this one. Of course, I wanna thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon.